Welcome back, you guys. This is the Dark Side Core 4 meeting for the novel, The Final Revival of Opal and Nev. I'll let everyone introduce themselves. I'm Erica Lynn or Riri, one of your hostesses with the mostesses. We got Danny.
Hello, I'm Danny.
We got Ghosty.
Hello.
And we got Candace.
Hello.
All right. So, the final revival of Open and Neb, if you had to think of one word to just describe what it's about, what would you pick before we even get started in like the description of the novel? But if you had to, for in one word, describe it to somebody, what would you call it? What would you say?
I would say I would use the word radical.
I would say empowerment. Yes, I would say empowerment.
I guess I would say, I want to say scandalous in a way.
So good. Such a good word.
Uh,
Such a good word.
I'm going with that.
She used a $3 word because what I was going to say was messy. So, yes, I would absolutely agree with all of those definitions. I looked up like a little summary of what the book is about, but if somebody else would want to talk about like a summary of what it is, then you can do that.
So, boom, the book is about this woman named Opal Jewel, and her partnership with this British kind of rock star named Nev Charles, who comes over to America and they make music together. But at the heart of the novel, it is about what ends their music making career and the fact that they decide to get the band back together, both literally and figuratively, and what really happened at Rivington Showcase and how someone ended up dying, and everything connected to that is how I would describe it to somebody if I was trying to say what it's about without giving away too much.
That's perfect.
Yay.
Um, One of the major things that I really enjoyed about the text was that it is like written in a multimedia kind of way, right? So Sunny is interviewing all of these people and they're telling these stories. And I always love that. And so if you listen to the audiobook, you basically get a full cast and that just kind of immerses you into the novel, I believe. Who do you think the characters, Opal and Nev, what group kind of reminded you of them? So did you have a vision of a group in your mind while you were reading it?
To me, who they bring to mind is kind of, and they were mentioned in the book, Mary Clayton and Mick Jagger. That definitely came to mind. And I believe Mick Jagger was in the Rolling Stones. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. But Opal was like this figure of rock and roll and just the blackness of rock and roll, that like raw talent that black people tend to have, and the artistry that comes from pain and survival and all of those kinds of things. So she definitely put me in the mind of a lot of just 60s and 70s rock and roll stars that do not get their due, like your Chuck Berrys and people like that. There's just her last name is Thornton. I'm gonna have to look it up in a second, but just like those people who always get lumped into the soul category when they were singing rock music before we even called it that, or when we did call it that, and they would just put white faces on it. So she was doing that. And people really tried to play her, but that's exactly what she was doing. She was a rock star making rock music. And I love that for her.
Yeah, she was definitely in her bag.
I would say it made me think about Tina Turner, Ike and Tina Turner. More so Tina because what she went through, what she had to fight for, and then she won and she came out victorious. So that's who I compared Opal to an extent.
Okay, I was thinking of Big Mama Thornton, and I knew that that was her name, but I second guessed myself, which I should stop doing. Big Mama Thornton. She was the the first person to sing Hound Dog in 1952, I believe, before anybody else.
There were moments where I felt like she gave me Nina Simone vibes with the song. I can't remember the name of it from the novel, but when she came out with that song and it was like, Who's the Nigger Now? Actually, I think that was the name of the song, Who's the Nigger
That
Now?
is the name of it.
And with Nina Simone's Strange Fruit, by it being so jarring and out there and in your face, like you can't pretend that you don't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? So I felt like in that moment she gave me that vibe.
Okay, those are all really, really good. Visually, I had Grace Jones in my head just because of the bald hair, the eccentric, y'all see that $3 word? The eccentric outfits and wigs. And I also thought about Tina Turner. And I think about specifically in the movie What's Love Got to Do with It, when Tina was just on stage, big orange hair, and at the end, she's just rocking out, to a crowd of, diverse people where everybody could love the music. And I just thought it was, so good.
I think it reminded me like Opal and Pearl, their kind of origin in the church, like that church scene, that reminded me a lot of Tina Turner and like specifically of the What's Love Got to Do with It movie scene, except it felt like if you divided Tina into two people and you gave her personality to one person and then her voice to another.
Yeah, absolutely. It was that. It also gave a little Suge Avery. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm singing like for as much as Opal sang for the world, she still had a faith. She wasn't necessarily sure of exactly what it was, but she had faith. So we've talked a lot about it. I'm gonna start with Opal. The first description that we get of Opal. Sunny has, gotten this dream job at the top of, some magazine firm. She's been appointed and she has all these ideas. However, she has not told anybody that her father was the famous Jimmy Curtis, who was beat to death by a group of, gangbangers, air quotes.
White supremacists.
Yeah, right. White supremacist gangbanger thugs. She's not told anybody that. She changed her name legally to, come away from that. She hid that. She held it close to her heart because she did not want to be successful off of her father's legacy, off of, the tragedy, even, right? She didn't want sympathy votes. She wanted to be able to do that shit on her own. And so she did. And she came with facts. She came with statistics. Everything she did, she had proof in the pudding. And so she goes to this major award show where she has this really great seat. She goes to the bathroom and literally bumps into Opal. At first, Opal is giving her the what the, but then she looks at her a little closely. She takes her hand and lifts her face up under the chin, which I think is so important to one of the themes of lifting up, like helping, advocacy, empowerment, like Candace said. I think it's really important to that. And even being radicalized, right? Because sometimes friendship between women is seen as like, oh my God, how could you? So anyway, she lifts her by the chin and she calls her by her name, Sarah Lena, which nobody knows, right? Nobody knows her name. So the first description we get of Opal is, I know her the same ways that you do. As Neville Charles, one time partner in Strange, the ebony skinned provocateur, the fashion rebel, the singer, screecher, Afro-punk ancestor, the unapologetically black feminist resurrected via gifts and Instagram quotes for these intense political times. Of course, through my lens, so many other identities were superimposed. Here was my father's crazy girlfriend, the one he'd gotten himself killed for, the source of my mother's pain, and by extension, her frustrations with me, my most complicated idol. I loved that being in the very introduction of the book because it told me a lot. It told me so much about Opal, so many things to look for, and so many things to look for that aren't necessarily there. When you guys read that description of Opal, or when you started hearing things about Opal to kind of paint this picture, what did it paint a picture for you? Were you still struggling? Were you confused? Like, how does all of that even go together? Did you think, oh my God, that's so messy, like me? Like, it was like, oh, okay.
It had me excited, so I said, okay. Opal was on point. She must have been a firecracker. I'm ready to see what Opal was putting out. Why does this young lady describe her that way? So yes, I was excited and ready to see what I was going to hear about Opal or find out about Opal.
When I was reading it, it was what? It was like May. And I was reading it on what happened to be World Goth Day. And it just felt so right and perfect to be reading it at that time with the reclamation of these what are now seen as predominantly white spaces like country music and rock music and those dark visual aesthetics like goth and punk and just all those alternative lifestyles and ways of representing yourself and ways of thought on top of that, because it's not just about how you look, it's about what you believe, like the fact that white supremacists and fascists cannot be goth, you cannot be alternative and believe that you should be over anyone, because that's not the mindset of those subcultures. That's not why those subcultures were created. They were created in opposition to those things. So reading that at that time really just solidified for me what I love and why I love being a part of a subculture, is because I don't 100% believe everything that the masses want me to believe. And I like to think for myself. And I love that Opal liked to think for herself and present herself in her own way to define herself. And I just love thinking about the innovation of Black people, Black women, and like in particular. And I already knew when we finally got to meet her and not just see her through like Sunny's perspective, that it was going to be a hell of a ride. And she turned out to be so much more than I ever could have imagined. She wasn't just those things. She had this softness to her underneath that, like that hardened exterior of I'm a survivor, I'm a fighter, I'm not going to let anybody tear me down. I know my worth, I know what I deserve, but also I can care for you if you show me that you're worthy of that. I love her. I think I might be like a fan.
Understandable. I feel like when I heard that when I read the description, it really showed me that she was going to be multifaceted, right? Like, and I appreciate the fact that that was such a complex description of Opal as a character, because I feel like it mimics real life when it comes to Black women in particular, where we have all of these different characteristics about that come, all of these different characteristics within ourselves. And sometimes you can't describe a person with just these vanilla type descriptions. Like, you have to really dive deep to really define who a person is. It showed me that she wasn't going to be the person be placed in like a box. So I appreciated that. And it also showed that Black people are not monolithic. Like, there is no one size fits all when it comes to any human being. But for some reason, we tend to try to place people of, you know, Black origin or whatever in these small little cramped spaces so that they can be more palatable for other people who are not Black, and less complex, because the more complex you are, the scarier you seem. So I really did love that the author was like, she's all of these things. Either you can accept it and swallow her whole, or you can get the fuck on, basically. So I really did like the description of Opal in the beginning.
I really did too. It really opened my eyes, and that was like at the very beginning. And I was so curious, like, wait a minute. Your daddy got killed over her? Okay, okay. So it really, I don't know, it tickled me, and like Candace said, it really made me like excited to read it. There was a host of characters around, and we know that Opal. When we meet Opal, we go ahead and we meet her sister Pearl. To me, it really showed a really good background to Opal and the way she moved through the world without being a whole bunch of like expository writing, right? So we find out that Opal and her sister Pearl were in Detroit, and for the summers they would go down to the country. I want to say it was in the SIP. I could be wrong, but I think it was Mississippi. They would go down to the South, and they were able to see the difference between the Northern racism versus the Southern racism, where in the North they were just kind of all black together, right? Like, y'all over here, we over there. They don't necessarily interact as much. But when it was down south, it would still hold your head down. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Don't you say another word kind of thing. But being from the North, lots of people go down there and get killed, shot, whatever, just for being black and doing something perceived as disrespectful. But in that little bit of conversation surrounding that, it really tells us a lot about her background and why she would be so radical, why she would be so empowered for the movement. What was your take on the relationship between Pearl and Opal? I guess in the beginning and throughout the novel.
I think for the most part, they were close. Like they had each other's backs and whatnot. Um, if I remember correctly, when the children would make fun of Opal for her alopecia, Pearl would try to, I guess, defend her to a certain extent. But I guess them both being children is kind of like how do you navigate that? I also think that the relationship was okay until they both just kind of went separate ways. Like the relationship shifted because the desires shifted. Pearl was more in the church. She got married to a pastor, more modest, whereas Opal was like, listen, I don't want no parts of none of that. I want the freedom to do what I want to do and how to express myself. So they bumped heads a lot when it came to that aspect of it. But I really do think that there was a love there, 100%. It may not have always shown up the way that the other person may have wanted it to, but I do think that it was for sure present.
Girl, Pearl was in that church for the man. She found her a cutie patootie and wouldn't let him go, okay?
I got her husband.
Or as in the Bible says, she found her Boaz and she was going to be following him. Yes.
I love their relationship. It was probably one of my favorites in the novel. It doesn't get as much screen time as some of the others, but screen time, it felt like a movie in my head. You could tell that they loved each other and that they were both trying to protect one another. They just were doing it in their own ways, which is usually how we as people tend to operate. I'm going to protect you in the way that I would want to be protected, as opposed to the way that might actually work best for you. And I also love their first interaction with Howie Kelly because of the way that memory works and the biases that we have, like those internal biases and the ways that we understand things. So you have a jealous memory from Opal's perspective, and you have a protective memory from Pearl's perspective. And they're probably both a little bit right and a little bit wrong. But either way, they both remembered one was in one position and the other was in another position, and that they were clearly going in two opposite directions. And then later, after Jimmy Curtis's death, and Pearl comes to help Opal, I thought that was just such a beautiful time for her to like, you're not gonna ignore me, first of all, and I'm gonna come and I'm gonna help you no matter what you say, and I'm going to do it in my way, but you're going to receive it in your way, because that's the way that love works. I give you what I have, and you take from it what you can get. And I just love that. And it was so clear that they loved each other, even though they were so obviously two radically different people. And I love that. I love when two I love when two different people still love each other 100%. I just have to let you be you and you have to let me be me.
I love their relationship. If you were raised like I was raised, or any back in those days, I would say in the black family, or in the family, well, no, black family, we were taught to protect each other despite of what difference or if whom's in the wrong. You're going to protect your sibling. And of course, like uh, Ghosty said, we have our own spectrums. When I say we, because I'm an older sister, 10 years difference. And believe me, when we come together, we loved, could be trying to express the same thing. I'm going to be a little gentle. Sharonda was going to be very free spirited and blah, 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 go with it. And then when it was time to take care of each other, or when someone was down, one of us were down, the next one would rise up. Or when we needed words of encouragement, my baby sister was there to give me those words of encouragement, and vice versa. As I was reading the book, I had to sit back and think, which one was I in this story? No, I'm not a holy roller, but I could see myself as a Pearl and my sister Sharonda as Opal, because baby, that girl was fire and ice, and she left her trail. I'm gonna say it was beautiful, beautiful in their own different ways. They had a strong love, a strong bond. But when they got pissed off at each other, they were pissed, and when they loved each other, they loved each other.
You know,
Um,
based off of what you're saying, because I too am the oldest out of me and my sister, and based off what you're saying, it really kind of falls under that, I guess for a lack of a better word, I'll say cliche of the youngest sister gets to kind of do a little bit more than the older one does, and
Yes, yes.
they're provided more space to really explore the world in a different way. And a part of that could be due to the protection of the oldest sister, being that shield so that they can navigate the world a little bit more freely. And I feel like that's not necessarily just like an older sister thing, it's just an older sibling thing. Most of the time, not all of the time. Some of the time, I don't know, but that's what it feels like.
I also think that parents get tired, right? Because I'm on the opposite end. I'm the baby sister, and I am the pearl, but not necessarily. I mean, I am the opal, but not necessarily because of the protection. Even though my sisters did protect me, me and my sisters was ace boon coons, both of them. Like I still talk to my sister every day, blah 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 blah. But my mama was tired. She had already did that. 12 years later, here comes somebody else. She like, shh, get it how you live, boo thing. But I wanted to touch on my whole which sister would I be? I would definitely be the opal, because I was the fighter. I was the one who was open and came out the closet. I was the one who spoke up. I was the one who always said, y'all know y'all keep y'all bail money on the side, because ain't nobody talking to my sister like that. I don't have nothing to lose. Y'all do. Y'all got careers, so I'm gonna be the protector. So I just think that was interesting because I am the baby sister. I definitely am.
I don't know that I would be either one of them, but I did enjoy the differences in the sisters. Like even when it came down to their parentage, I thought it was so funny how kind of cynical and world weary Opal was, as opposed to Pearl, who was more naive because she genuinely believed that her dad was she thought he was like a war hero or something. And then of course Opal slides in, right thereafter. And this is one of those ways that the audiobook really works because you have one person saying one thing and then another person contradicting them. And Pearl is thinking, my dad was this, and then Opal comes in and is like, we didn't know who our daddies was, but it was probably one of them dudes who worked down to the plant where our mom worked.
I think part of that also is because Danny brought up Opal's alopecia, and that too is very foundational in Opal's outlook and how she manages the whole world, right? So she's already seen the nasty, ugly, raw honesty of the world because of how she's treated, how she's mistreated. And I think that kind of takes the blinders off and wanting to see the truth. You know what I'm saying? The truth behind everything. Like, now, girl. And so Pearl didn't have that. She just had to defend it, but she didn't have to feel it, experience, and literally see people cringe or, poke fun and all that stuff. So I do
Yeah.
think that that is a very good observation that you had about like the way the memories changed and how foundational it was, like Danny said, of her alopecia. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, I was paying attention. I was
Um,
having a good time.
Well, I have like a whole lot of things about like the story. So I guess we can just get into that. The big story of Opal and Nev and how they came over. Mika, since you seem to be the expert, do you want to talk about like how Nev like kind of came over and became famous and how he met Opal and Pearl and all of that stuff? Like just, you know what I'm saying, briefly so that we can get into that aspect of the stardom.
Absolutely. So, Nev was like a popular kid for a little bit. And then when him and the other kids got older, it didn't so much matter how much money you had. I mean, obviously that was a part of it, but it mattered where your money came from. And a lot of the kids he went to school with, their parents were like business people. And his father owned a fish and chip shop, over in Great Britain or whatever. So he kind of went through this melancholy phase, and you can kind of see it as the book goes on, where he has these ups and downs, like these extreme kind of emotions. And he usually needs someone else to pull him out of it. So eventually he ends up studying music. It doesn't quite work, but then he joins a band. And one thing about Nev is he's going to study some shit. And it's usually not the thing you think he's studying. 9 times out of 10, he is studying you, and he is going to figure out how to copy that shit and sell it better than you could ever sell it. And that's exactly what he does with his band. And that's how I think he gets put out because they said, absolutely not, sir. You will not be taking the sunshine from us. Eventually, instead of going to college, he decides to make music, and then something tragic happens, and he ends up in America with most of his dad's money from, I believe, either selling the chip shop or cashing in, like stocks and bonds or something like that. And he ends up in America doing the very white liberal thing. I'm living in the ghetto and I'm a part of the people, but not really understanding because at any moment he can leave. And he starts to make that kind of melancholy British music that doesn't really sell. It's too weird. It's too sad. It doesn't know what it wants to be, so no one really knows what it is. But he does have the eyes and the attention of people. They just don't know how to sell it. They don't know how to market him because there's really not a market for what he's doing. I don't know if we had the Great British Wave yet. So he might have, he might have done better then. But also he wasn't making the psychedelic music of the Beatles or anything like that. So again, he wasn't being marketed very well because there just wasn't an area for him. And eventually you have people like Mick Jagger, who you're seeing this white British man, and a lot of British stars at the time, the thing that they would talk about is how influential Black musicians were to the music that they made, and how unfair it was that because they had the acceptable faces, they could make that music and it would skyrocket their careers. So a lot of the time they would work with Black talent, like from America, the very people that they were inspired by, or people that had that sound that they were inspired by, to tap into. And that's how we know what we need for Nev. We need a Black woman because we don't know what to do with this weird ass white man. So we need to put a Black woman by him, and hopefully she can shape him into something. And eventually that is how he starts working with Opal. But originally they wanted Pearl because she had that va va boom. She had that Coke bottle. This bitch Howie Kelly. Also, fuck Howie Kelly. I had a fuck Howie Kelly counter. going when I was reading this book, and it got over 12. Like, okay, he called the sisters the Coke bottle and the straw. I hate him, but that's how it happened.
Okay, so now that we know how they got together, what did you feel about them going to the clubs to scout the ladies and no, no, no until you pick your right Negro? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I
how
need
did that make y'all feel? Because it really, I understood what they were doing, and I understand that you go see talent, but you're not going to just, like you said, we need a Negro, you know? So you going to all these clubs. Did they
yes.
give anybody else like the ugh? Or it
It
was just
gave me the yeah. I felt like, dog, you're looking for cattle. So it's like you're buying me. You need to go after my talent. That pissed me off completely. Completely.
I felt two ways about it. I felt like I didn't like how it was happening, but I didn't mind that it was happening because if anybody should be famous, if anybody should be getting the exposure and hopefully making money off of this art form, it should be the people that created it. I was happy that, at least it meant that they would have that. But I hate that that's what it takes for you to create something, for it to be stolen and then to be whitewashed. And then a white person has to come and pluck you out of obscurity to give you the fame that was always yours because the people who created it looked like you. That irritated me. But I do like to see the people who is in us. We are the ones who should be there. We shouldn't be the only faces, but it shouldn't be where it's like, oh, we're the oddity in an art form that we made. That's so bizarre.
I mean, come on. And I don't want to get onto a whole tirade about it, but I mean, nail shops, hairstyles, blah, 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 blah.
Literally everything. The baby
Literally.
hairs. The baby hairs.
That
I
they
don't
are now
even.
taking and calling sticky bangs.
Are you kidding me?
No,
Yes,
it's so serious.
it's
I know you're
very
lying. I know you
absolutely not.
fucking lying.
I'm 100% telling the truth. They have decided to call baby hairs sticky bangs.
They call afros cloud bobs.
Hmm.
They call box braids boxer braids.
Never in
Like,
my
I'm
life.
going to kill you.
Never in my life.
I wish you could see my face because I did not know that. Like, baby, auntie is old over here. I did not know. Okay.
Ridiculous.
Okay. So, whew, okay. So now that they have gotten Opal, Opal really plays the game when it comes to not signing initially. Do you think she handled that contract thing well, or do you think she should have just hurried up and did what she was supposed to do? Sign the contract and sneak away from home, or sneak away from home and then sign the contract? Like, do you think that she handled that well, or it could have been handled in a different way?
Ooh, I think she handled it as the best that she could. I wish she knew a lawyer, somebody who could have helped her negotiate the contract better, so that she had less to fight for down the road. But I absolutely do think that letting you know I'm worth something and that I know that you came here to get me, not the other way around. I do feel like that was smart. And I also feel like it set up the person that they were going to be working with, and if they had paid attention, they would have known this isn't somebody that you're going to be able to beat down. So either decide that you're going to work with her and that you have to treat her fairly, or find somebody else that you can manipulate in the way that you want to manipulate them, because it's not going to work with this one. But yeah, yeah, they painted her as difficult, which irritated the fuck out of me because Nev couldn't even make music until y'all found somebody to inspire him. But he's not difficult? Really? Okay. It seems like it's only difficult when it's not a white man.
There you go. You spoke the truth.
Okay, so now that they're starting to make music, it was obvious, like you said, that Nev really, really needed her to
Inspiration. He needs somebody to
inspiration.
work off of.
yeah, a muse
Yes.
to like bounce back and forth off of.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're spending all this time together and they're writing and well, he's writing and they're working and singing and practicing. But at this time, Opal has also met her best friend, her new best friend. His name is Virgil. He,
Virgil of Flor.
I love
yeah,
him.
he
God, I
was
love
so
him.
fun.
I love him.
He had a nickname for her. Vicky, you want to tell the story of the nickname too?
Yes, the nickname was Mad. He always called her Mad, and it was short for Mademoiselle. And I love that for them. They're so cute.
And if anybody else would hear that, of course, they're going to go to the negative. So they already have labeled her difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he's met her and calls her mad. And I wonder if the author was really trying to show the duality of a person and what they present to as the world, what the world is automatically going to see them as opposed to looking deeper and finding the meaning and finding their true purpose and finding their true personality. Because at face value, we've already heard strange looking, radical, Afro-punk. You got him calling her mad. They called her difficult. And then
Mm-hmm.
to look deeper and to know that it really stands for Mademoiselle, which she was also radical in softness. She was helping people behind the scenes. She was, doing all of this stuff to help fight the real cause. Man, I see what you did there.
Yeah, it. I think it goes back to what I was talking about earlier about what you get to see when you actually get to know people versus those snap judgments that you make. When you would get to know who Opal was, there was a lot of softness and a lot of care that went into just her relationships with other people. And there was a lot of honesty there too, because when she was having some of those songwriting sessions with Nev, and things just weren't working, instead of fluffing up his ego, she was just like, man, this ain't working. I don't want to do this old crybaby ass music with you. We need something live. We need something energetic. She was honest with him, and instead of getting offended by, he did get his little feelings hurt because he's a very sensitive white man, but he did take it in and understand, okay, if I'm trying to build something with her, I can't just pluck her out of wherever she came from and say, here, sing this music that I made. We have to start over. We have to create something together because that's the only way we're going to get something authentic and creative and memorable out of it. It was good. It was real good.
So they're making this music. It's really good. They decide they're going to have a band playing in the background with this new song that was amazing. I don't remember what the song was or what the album was, the album title, but it was I think, a
Was
standalone.
it Polychrome?
Yeah, yeah, Polychrome.
Okay.
And so that's when we enter the black drummer, Jimmy Curtis, who is also, like we said, Sarah Lena or Sonny's dad, who was murdered at one of their shows.
Rivington Showcase.
Right. So we get Jimmy, and instantly there is a connection between Jimmy and Opal.
Well, not instantly, because it originally all of the musicians thought that she didn't know what she was doing, and they were correct because she had never, sung professionally. She had never done any type of studio work. She wasn't a musician. She was just someone who liked to make music, and there is a difference there. And so they weren't sure immediately how to take her. Is she gonna sink or swim? I think that was everyone's initial reaction. And then once she really started to take criticism, to actually learn from them and not be offended by the fact that we don't think you know what you're doing, because she also knew I don't know what I'm doing. And then they kind of gained that respect from her. And I think because they were the only two black people in attendance, then
Yeah,
her,
that's
yeah, then her and Jimmy they had that relationship that was based on like respect, creativity, and just under like an understood shared lived experience.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Like, not an instant, like physical, emotional connection, but instantly they had the connection that we the only black folk in this room. And so, with Jimmy being an actual student of musicianship, right? He decided that he wasn't just gonna let people say, "Oh, he just talented musician." No, baby, he studied, he worked. It's not just, it's not just something we gifted with. Though we are talent, we still have to study to hone our craft. And so he took it upon himself to assist Opal in actually learning. And so that also helped build the connection between her and the band.
I
And
do like that she had to earn it though. Like that she had to show them that she wasn't just someone there to be there and to, do whatever she was told and then kind of go on. I like that she had to show those musicians I'm here to learn and not just do. Like I'm actually here to learn from you guys before they would really look at her with any type of respect or reverence. I really thought that was dope.
And I love the fact that the author didn't make her have to do some strange for a piece of change just to get on in the music industry.
Right. Right. Even though, oof, I just want to say, fuck Nev Charles too. Fuck Nev Charles. Anyway,
So her and Jimmy, he teaches her, practices with her. They stay up late and the nights get longer and longer and they later and later. And one thing leads to another and they start an affair. We are in the age of knowing that having affairs is wrong, and I am not advocating it at all. That is not what I am doing when I ask this question. But when Opal looks back on it, she's like, yeah, I did it. I did it. I was 21 years old. I was a dumb, like she can look back on it and say she was a dumb fool, for making those type of immature decisions. And at the beginning, we already know that Sonny's mom knows about the affair, knew about the affair. Sorry, drink some water. Um, drink some water out there in TV land. Okay, okay. Yeah, how did you feel when the affair was brought up? Did it make you change the way you looked at Opal? Did it change the way you felt about Jimmy and his talent and what he had been doing?
No, it didn't make me. Now I'm gonna go back because I told you I knew we was getting ready to find out something about Opal, firecracker, feisty, spicy. So it didn't surprise me. I wasn't upset. Um, but I did like how she knew she messed up. She knew she had some type of part to play in the affair, and how sent money to Sonny's mom to make sure that Jimmy's daughter was taken care of. That right there to me is very, very powerful. Because what woman do you know right now will send money to her boo thing or her sugar daddy after they died to help the mother take care of the child? Nobody. Not that I know of. But I think I'm gonna say it was going to eventually happen, either play around, it may not last for a long time, or it would have turned into something, could have turned into something powerful to the point where he could have left Sonny's mom, but it didn't. And I hate to say it, back in them days, some spice was getting around between each other, but it didn't surprise me. I wasn't upset.
Yeah, it didn't surprise me either. It was actually on par for the times, because back then Pop was a Rolling Stone, right? Like I don't know too many men that, even in my own family, I don't know too many men from back then who were 100% faithful to their wives. Um, they would step out of their marriages, like they would make sure home for the most part was taken care of, because that was kind of like the way they can excuse that behavior. At least I'm taking care of home. Yeah. But it wasn't surprising to me, and being cheated on, it fucking hurts. So I think that when it comes to Opal being the other woman, the immaturity of it all definitely plays a huge part in it because I don't think she really understood the damage that she was causing. You know, it didn't upset me. It wasn't surprising. And I knew it was going to happen with the late nights because it's easy. If I'm in the studio with you until the wee hours of the morning, damn near every day of the week, it's your easy access. So yeah, it's kind of bound to happen if you're able to, I don't want to say be manipulated, but if you're able to kind of like fall to that temptation a little bit more easier than some people, it'll be bound to happen. You have to have a really strong leg to stand on when it comes to things like that, so that you don't fall prey to that temptation of wanting to lay with that person. Hopefully that made sense. I I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but whatever.
Um, I think for me, when it came to the affair, Opal was young and she was just having fun. Plus, she was also in in a situation where you're really the only person that I'm attracted to. And I think I put more of the onus on Jimmy because you're the one with the wife and you are the one with the vows. You are the one who made this promise, and you are the one who is about to be a father. But I also have to, put it on her because you're not clueless about this. And I appreciated her answer. It was unemotional and it was honest. And, for some people it can rub you the wrong way when people respond that way, but there's really I don't think any better way to respond because no matter how I respond, if I did something like that to you with your husband, I'm never going to give you like a good enough answer or respond emotionally appropriate because of what the impact on you was. So the most I can do is take my emotions out of it because they don't matter. And I can be honest with you because if you're coming to me, then that's exactly what you deserve. It's for me to be real with you. Um, so I really appreciated that. And I appreciated the fact that she knew what she was doing was wrong. And also that when she figured out, I don't want to be any man's wife. I don't want to be any man's property. And you're about to have a child, and I want you to go do that. I appreciated that because she knew eventually I'm not trying to replace your wife. Like I don't want her position. And I don't want you thinking that I want you to be my husband because I don't. To do what she did for Sonny, I thought was cool. I thought it came out of a place of, just well-placed guilt, but also of wanting to help girls like her because later on in the novel when they're on tour and you hear about that, you do hear about her wanting to help these young girls that come to the shows and about her feeling like no matter what I do, it's not enough.
Yes.
So, like for her to do this for Jimmy's daughter and to like really help her get her foot in that door to be able to stand up against these predominantly white institutions and hold your own and know that you know your shit. I think that was just a continuation of what she was trying to do with those girls that she would meet on tour.
I think that's a really good place to just pivot just a moment to talk about empowerment. And so now that Opal and Jimmy have started this affair, she got the itchy gitchy yayas. And she approaches, I want to say her name is Liz, which is the secretary at the recording studio, because she doesn't have any female friends. She just has like Virgil, and her sister, of course, is way across town, cross country or whatever. And she asked her about it, and she even says like, I don't know why she asked me, but I just told her, go on and get you this little cream, put it on there, and hey, you got you a good one. He putting in that work, and Opal like looked surprised because even though she's not innocent, she just didn't, she was just shocked that this, white woman is talking to her about this, right? And so she's like, what? Don't be surprised, he got to be doing his thing if, you're going on, but make sure afterwards you wipe up good after you pee, before and after, blah, 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 blah. And it was very reminiscent. I mean, it really brought up in the beginning when Opal lifted Sunny's head, when Sunny had kept her receipts because she didn't want nobody to think that she was living off her legacy, like just being empowered to be that girl even in your sexuality. And I just thought that was really good to see. Did you have any thoughts about that scene? Where you like, not scandalized of course, but were you like, oh, okay, good idea, or was you like, now she ain't have to tell her all that? What was your thoughts on it?
I like that they had that conversation. I hated that she had to find out that way, but I think that is the way a lot of people find out, about the aftercare that you need to take for your body when you are a woman, and like for your health down there. And also not 100% in the empowerment, but I was thinking about black people in meritocracy and the fact that Sunny didn't want to use her father's name, where if she was white, she probably would have, because those people know that it's not a meritocracy, and to use everything that you have, not just the fact that you're brilliant or that you are well studied or that you are experienced, but like to take everything you have for the best possible outcome. And it's always interesting when, because black people have been taught and socialized the opposite, that you have to use your skills, your talent, and you have to get there through merit, which kind of set us back. But anyway, I appreciate that. I feel like she learns to do a little bit of the opposite, and to not use in a bad way, but to use her access to people like Opal and Virgil, and and her dad's legacy and everything that she has, but also everything that she just inherently is. And I'm talking about Sunny's character, if I didn't mention that, because I don't think I said her name, but
I know you said a $3 word, and so for those in the audience who may not know what meritocracy is, would you like to explain that?
meritocracy is basically just get believing that you're getting somewhere based on your merit, based on your talent, or based on the work that you have put in. I have gotten this because I deserve it. Whereas in our society, a lot of the time it's the opposite. You may get somewhere because you deserve it, but oftentimes you also get somewhere because of who you know, as well as what you can do. And a lot of the times, who you know is more important than you getting there off of just based off of your own merit. And
Correct.
so, there we go.
And I think it goes into the whole, you got to be twice as good to get just as half of what they want, and it's a fact.
Absolutely.
Seen it happen, and that's part of the reasons why Black women are some of the most educated, out there, and why we do that thing of standing on business and keeping receipts and having proof and all of that. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Absolutely.
Um, Honestly, I forgot that even took place until you mentioned it.
I
Okay,
second that
well,
one.
that's
Look,
a
I
thought.
second that one. I didn't.
I'm gonna
I
be honest, for the people watching, I forgot that even happened.
I think I found it so empowering because we think about young Black women who are in the church and how sex is so taboo, right? We don't even get the education for when you get married, even, right? Because that's just information to have, regardless of how you get into sex. But in the Black community, the Black religious community, it's so taboo. We don't talk about it. And so for her to just teach her that in that moment, and it showed her naivete. Like, I'm 21 years old. I was young and dumb. She had just said it, So I guess it just stood out to me. But I can agree that it wasn't a technically important part,
I
you
mean,
know.
I don't think that it's not important. Like, I don't think it's unimportant in any way. I think that it does help push the story forward, as far as it really does show just how naive Opal was. and how important it is to have somebody in your corner to educate you without judgment. So yeah, 100%. And it, as far as you talking about like the tabooness of it all, especially when you have these young black women who come out of the church, or even any woman that comes out of the church, it ties back into the conversation we had with the last discussion, these heathens. If you haven't watched it, go watch it.
Oh my God, it was so good. The discussion.
It was. Go watch it if you haven't. But it ties into that conversation as far as like we don't prepare people for real life. When it comes, the church does not prepare people for real life. Even when it comes to sexual health, even though the church pushes, marriage first and then you can go on and you can do the hokey pokey as much as you want to, because that's your husband, that's your wife, or whatever, you still have to teach the aftercare of it all. And yes, there is also aftercare when it comes to the men too. There's aftercare on both ends, but there is a lot more intense aftercare when it comes to women, right? Which makes sense. So I do love that she did receive that education, like I said before, without the judgment of
Yeah.
it all. Like, hey, you're not seen as dirty. You didn't do anything wrong per se, but let me teach you how to lessen the chances of this happening again. Because sometimes you can do all the care in the world and it can still happen because the not the human, the body of a woman is complicated.
And
Right.
the urethra is short.
Right, it's very complex. So, I do appreciate that it was a woman to woman. I'm not judging you. I'm not looking down upon you for not knowing this, but let me help you, learn something so that we can prevent this from happening again because it's uncomfortable and it can be painful. And then you have to do those extra steps if you don't do what you need to do, because then you got to get the antibiotic, all that shit. So, yeah.
Let me learn you something.
I think my favorite moment of empowerment again was when Pearl came to Opal's rescue, and to because she knew that her sister was hurting, and she knew that she needed someone to put that battery back in her back and remind her who she was and what she was capable of, even if in Pearl's mind it meant one thing and in Opal's mind it meant another. She still was there to she was the reason that she got up, that she started talking again, that she decided she wanted to leave the house, that she wanted to get dressed. Even though, she got her dressed in them ugly ass clothes, still, my girl was outside again. And that was not an option before Pearl got there and really reminded her sister, you are who you are. And don't let those people take that from you. I just love that moment. I love any time that the sisters were together, to be honest with you, because they were so different and yet really genuinely cared about each other. And I just thought it was a beautiful relationship.
I would agree with that. I love them and what they stood for and
Yeah.
what they did for each other. Jimmy and Opal, they start the affair. Um, Jimmy, I want to say, has left the band to pursue other projects. There was a lot of tension between Opal, Nev, and Jimmy because Nev could see how close Opal and Jimmy had gotten, and I believe he was jealous. And there's a lot of underlying tension or mystery behind the relationship between Opal and Nev, right? They're really close. They spend all nights together. They live together at some point, I want to say.
I think they was doing the nasty in the house. I really do think that they had something. And you see it a lot of the time between creative people. When you get two creative people together and they start vibing, it feels like a deeper connection than it actually is, because it's like we're creating something together, and that can be a very just like a very hitty mixture to where you're like, ooh, I kind of, I like you. It has to do with like that proximity and that creativity and being around someone who kind of speaks the same creative languages as you, where somebody might like someone else might tell you, okay, well, calm down, slow down, let's be realistic about this. They're just like, no, let's go harder, let's go even bigger, let's delve deeper. And it can just feel very intoxicating in a way. And I feel like that's what happened in that house. And she had my boy Nev's nose wide open.
I also think it has to do with when you're writing those songs, sometimes you go to the deepest, darkest places of your soul or the most intimate places, the most secret places, and you pull from that and you're sharing that with somebody and you're singing it or rapping it or whatever you're doing with such intensity and vulnerability that you can't help but build that closeness also, even while you're creating this quote unquote baby of a song, right? You like you said, you birthed something, you've created something. So I think that definitely adds to it.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason that a lot of like creative people date their band members or their co-stars. Like showmances are a thing for a reason. You are spending so much time with someone who has the same passion as you, and people in your regular life who might know you better, they still don't know that part of you as well as that as another creative person will. And like y'all just don't have that exact same vibe. So it's enthralling when you meet somebody and you can really talk that talk with them. And a lot of the time it leads to a lot of freaky deaky shenanigans.
I'm just to bounce off of what you said, like to agree with what you're saying. When you have someone who gets it,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a titillating experience, right? Like this person understands something that I am so passionate about. And they get it. They get how ugly and raw and expressive it can be, and they're not judgmental of that expression, or that the fact that this experience that I'm having, it's not weird, it's not strange. They get it.
Exactly. Yeah. They just understand what you're talking about, and they can go down those rabbit holes with you of sitting in the house listening to record after record all day and deciphering lyrics, and you have like your inside jokes with that person about some obscure thing you heard in a song one time and no one knows what you're talking about. It's just y'all two.
Hmm. Even
It's
picking apart
like,
the melody of it all, like
yes, we have a thing now, and that can cause some sparks to fly. I get it. Them creatives, you got to watch out for them.
that's
Gird your loins.
why you have so many people who be like, don't date a musician.
Do not date a musician, and if he writes a rap song for you, run, run, girl. Trying to tell you.
The band has not gotten a lot of popularity and they're trying to get them, and they've been playing on these, stages behind the scenes, small crowds, but they're still doing their thing and they're trying to get in the spotlight again so that they can do something big. And so their record company has signed this new band. I'm just gonna call them the Racist Hoes. And so they signed the Racist Hoes and they want to get everybody together for this show. And because of the Racist Hoes, they feel like that'll draw some attention to some of the other stars on the stage, if I'm not mistaken. It's really tense because Opal does not want to work with the racist hoes. They carry around a Confederate flag and it just makes her feel very uncomfortable. And so I think she calls Jimmy, is like, Jimmy, what I'm supposed to do? How am I supposed to feel about this? Because this is not something I want to do. And so she basically gets them to let Jimmy be the drummer for the show.
It was the Bond brothers, right?
Yeah, the racist host.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought that was their name. I couldn't remember.
Me either. Okay, at the show, things are tense. Mickey, do you want to describe like the feeling of the show and what goes on like there?
Whew, okay. Rivington showcases a hot ass mess. I believe the agreement was that they wouldn't have the flag, the Confederate flag. It wouldn't be a thing And of course the Bond brothers bought it with them because they believed that it was, all about like their history and their culture and blah blah blah. And of course they were being antagonistic as well. And there's a whole bunch of acts there, like everybody who was signed to what, Rivington Records? Yeah, Rivington Records. And they're making everybody uncomfortable. Also, they bring a biker gang, like for whatever reason, the people that they invited, that they left tickets at the door for, was this like this big, almost Hell's Angels-esque biker group. And if you know anything about the Hell's Angels, you know that they get busy and that it is very violent. And that's exactly what this group of people, that's how they are as well. So you have like a lot of sexual harassment, borderline sexual assault, if I'm not mistaken. People are feeling very, very uncomfortable. They are the only group with what, a dressing room, and somehow they're still spilling out into the hallways and making everybody uncomfortable. And their guests are just antagonizing people and very, very rowdy. So the crowd is even responding to that energy, and it's getting hectic. Eventually the flag disappears. The flag disappears, and somehow I can't exactly remember how this happened, but oh, I think she snatched it. Opal has it, and her and Virgil decide that she's gonna wear it, and things go from bad to worse, and eventually all of these little things, like the biker group, the animosity between the Bond brothers and Opal specifically, the fact that Howie fucking Kelly and Bob High, as quiet as is kept because none of you bitches were watching what the fuck y'all should have been watching, and the fact that y'all don't have appropriate security, everything just kind of boils down and it's a powder keg, and eventually it explodes, and there is a riot and several people are hurt. And I believe that Jimmy Curtis isn't the only person to lose his life, but of course he is the most famous. And there's this photo that comes out of it with Opal on Nev's back, and it just kind of blows up from there because it looks a certain way from the outset. It looks almost like they had more to do with the riot than the racist white people, because of course you're going to blame it on the only few brown people in attendance. And Jimmy dying, I think, was kind of part of that because it made it seem like they were an integral part of this thing when really they weren't, except for the fact that what Opal did with the flag was antagonistic back. It did not help matters, and it just made everything worse. But everything that day made everything worse. And that was kind of the atmosphere. Also, again, Howie Kelly and Bob Hayes, who were the owner of Rivington Records and one of the like main producers for Rivington, and I believe he was like 50% owner by then or something like that. They just did not have any control over these people. They didn't have control over the atmosphere. They didn't have enough security. They had no authority, and shit was just allowed to spiral in a way that it never should have been allowed to spiral. And
Yeah.
that's how we get here.
Virgil and Opal crack me up. So they
It's
made
so
it,
funny.
and they made it like, I want to say like panties over whatever she had, like whatever hoop skirt she had on. And so she basically flashed her ass at them and showed them where the X was right on the crack of her ass.
A mess.
And baby, hell to pay. So when we hear about this, we hear about it from different points of view, and this brings back up the who who is, the subjectiveness of it, the objectiveness of it, who's telling the truth, how it changes depending on who's doing it, who's doing revisionist history. And so we hear Opal's version, and we're like, oh my God, that just feels so tense, right? Nev, when we hear his version, he's kind of like, man, it was kind of wild, but he doesn't sound as, I don't know, as anxious. The wording doesn't feel as tense as it does for Opal's description. And then we hear one of the Bond brothers tell the story, and he's like, ha ha, yeah, telling it. And he
Hmm.
reveals that Nev told him that Jimmy had the flag or something. He said something to the effect of Opal or Jimmy had the flag. Why don't you go ask him about it?
No, what I think what he said was it was kind of like a question, like do you know where your flag is?
Yeah.
Kind of like
That's what
that.
it was.
Yeah, that just like that little sprinkle of I wonder where your flag went. Being messy, he was an instigating ass, jealous ass bitch. He
Thank
was
you.
Messy move.
upset that Jimmy was there and Jimmy and Opal were having a very different experience to what Nev was having because that flag doesn't mean anything to him. It
No.
doesn't
Exactly.
it doesn't hurt him. It doesn't bring up it doesn't strike any fear in his heart because it was never a weapon against him. So instead of being happy that Opal has someone there who understands what she's going through, of course, like a man, he's jealous and he instigates.
I think also
The-
to add him doing that, it showed us as readers that even though he may not have had the same experience with this Confederate flag, by him, of course, not being an American born and raised, he still understood the power of it. And he
mhm.
understood that he can use this to incite some type of reaction out of both parties because he was more so frustrated at the fact that Jimmy was saying, "Hey, maybe we need to cut this shit short and get up out of here," because it was
Yep.
already getting rowdy.
Yes.
He ain't like that because that meant that Nev and Opal, and even though he don't really give a fuck about Opal, it's more so Nev wouldn't have been able to perform. He was like, "Let me provoke this situation so that I can still get on this stage and do what I want to do." That's
Selfish.
it was just that moment right there was fucking disgusting.
Yeah. Oh, Nev has this thing that I didn't notice the first time that I was watching it, but it's like weaponized incompetence. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what I'm doing. I just need some help. Could you help me? And people always step up to help him do the things that he could do for himself, but he's learned through experience. If I wait long enough, someone else will come and do my dirty work for me. And that is exactly what he does here. I fucking hate Nev Charles because he is the one that's always behind some shit, always got his fingers in the pies, and then is the one who gets away scot free and successful and does not take the blame for it. The fact that they were waiting outside of Opal's her home and all on the news and in newspapers doing interviews about her and wanting to hold her responsible for the people that were hurt and the people that lost their lives and that somehow she was the one who did all that and knowing that you had your hand in it and you're just sitting at your house boo fucking hooing with people over top of you like mother henning you like something really happened to you that night. Fuck Nev. All day. I am so glad that his wives divorced him. I hope they took most of his money.
Him using that as a way to get his way and then having that outcome as far as Jimmy, breaking his neck because that's ultimately what happened.
Yeah.
And knowing that Opal had that guilt because she did believe that she was at fault for it. Not necessarily at fault because, of course, the white supremacists of it all, they started the shit and they the ones who made it violent. But, there was still like a level of guilt that she had because what if I had listened to Jimmy and just left when he told me I should?
Yep.
He would still
And
be here.
survivor's guilt.
Yeah, survivor's guilt. And Nev knew she was carrying this around with her. And not once did he try to alleviate her of it. But the guy, I can't remember, not Howie, but it was the other guy. What was his name?
Bob.
Is Bob, sorry.
Bob.
You talking about Bob Hayes, the British one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, he knew something wasn't right with Nev because he was at the hospital with him. And when he broke the news that, Jimmy was deceased, he knew something shifted in Nev, even though he didn't know exactly what it was or why. I was not what it was, but why it was. The just picking up on that as a reader, it just make me oh my God.
Hate, hate,
Fine.
hate
Fight, kill.
Nev. He is the worst.
Mm.
It really created a rage within me because you have so much fucking audacity. You knew you were the reason why the shit got worse. You knew you had a hand in why Jimmy ended up deceased. And yet you have the fucking audacity and nerve to smile in his daughter's face.
Yep.
Like nothing happened. Nothing's wrong.
I'm talking about grinning and skinning, and that was why he had made it so difficult.
For her to talk to
Mm-hmm.
him.
Because I think that he needed to limit the room for error to slip up, to say something that, you know what I'm saying, that might be incriminating, because you can only tell the same lie so long.
Mm-hmm.
Also, how much do you know?
Right.
I have no clue how much you know.
I
It was
loved when it finally came out because the guy who was a part of this white supremacist group, when he was giving
I
his
think it
interview.
was Chet Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, his name would be something like Chet.
What was it?
I think it was Chet, like Chettt
Oh God.
or something like that. Don't it sound like that's what his name would be?
Jet.
Yes.
But during his interview, when he let it come out, and it was the way he let it slip out was like, I know something you don't know. Like, and
Yep.
it's like he fed off of her reaction because, baby, when we got that author's note and Homegirl said, motherfucker, what?
Yeah.
girl, when I
Yep.
say I said it with her.
I did too. And I
Honey.
was just like, baby, I just know that in that moment, professionalism is out the window. I don't give a fuck about none of that. What the fuck did you just say?
Yep. Mm.
I think that was my main problem with Nev this time around is I realized how much of a user he was. He was always using someone to get what he wanted, even if it was just like me using you, giving me lessons, and me sneaking my way into your band and going from being just like the kid who's kind of an understudy to being the main singer in your band. And all of a sudden, you're realizing your fans are coming out to see me. He was insidious that way. He always did that. Like, if you ever reread the book, pay attention. He is always sneaking his way into some shit and then taking it over. I hate him because you don't recognize he's the villain until it's too fucking late.
Mhm.
Oh, I can't stand his ass.
He just always escapes accountability, and it's so irritating because people like him always escape accountability, even within themselves, right? Like, because that's what kind of pushes him to fall into addiction
Mm-hmm.
because he can't handle the fact that I had a hand in the death of this man who is expecting a child.
Right. You said it very well. Said
It
it very well.
irked me because it's like, bitch, you don't deserve an escape, even though that escape is destructive. Don't get me wrong, that is one of the worst ways to gain escape, but the fact that you are still gaining temporary escape, bitch, you don't need that. You don't deserve any type of escape or any type of relief from what you did and the part that you played in it. It bugs me. It made me mad.
Yeah,
Yeah, Nev is the worst.
it was definitely problematic. It was opportunistic, and I think that's a really good word for what Nika was saying about him always getting somebody else to do his dirty work, even his good work, right? Dirty work, good work, all of it. He gonna get somebody to do it. He just want his name. He just got to be the face for whatever it is. So after the murder of Jimmy, I think one of you brought up that people were outside yelling and antagonizing her, blaming her, and I want to say they even charged her with the death. It put me in the mind of Janie and Tea Cake. Like, how you gonna charge me? Like, what? Are you kidding me?
Hmm.
And she had to deal with all of that. Where, like you said, Nev, he didn't. He got to go on, and eventually he became famous, and not became famous, but continued his fame through that. Whereas she was vilified for it. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Nev was after Rivington. Nev was treated like a victim, and Opal was treated like a suspect.
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So, how did you feel when, like, after Opal heard that she had already had her interview with Nev, and so she calls and she's trying to get another one, and they keep putting her off, putting her off, putting her off, and so she finally leaves a message like, "Yeah, you tell that motherfucker I know what he did
Mm.
last summer." Okay. And she's trying to get, back on it, but at the same time, Bob Hyde finally, not finally, dies like we're waiting on it, but Bob Bob dies, and she sees Opal for the first time, and I'm not quite sure why there was a little bit of beef there, but it felt tense from the start.
I believe the beef came from the fact that Opal didn't she didn't want to believe that about Nev. And like a lot of people, she played a part in him not having to face accountability because you don't look at him and see what he is. You kind of see what you want to see.
Well, I
You're
was meaning before she told her. Like, it seemed a little off, even like before she told her, but then they got pushed into telling her, kind of quick.
like because be when they see each other at the funeral, I can't remember exactly how it happened in the book, but you do get the feeling that Opal knows what Sunny knows. And this isn't her first time like hearing that this may have been an option. So she's upset that cuz she's like why are you bringing that up again or whatever.
Okay.
And it's just like because it seems like there's some truth to it. And I also think that because of who Sunny got this information from, she's like you're listening to Chet Bond of all people. You know,
Like his word is not true. You can't believe a
exactly.
word come out his
Right.
mouth.
Why would you ever take something that he said and then make these huge accusations against this man that I value, because she values him and does not want to believe that he is who people are saying that he might be. And also I think it has to do with the fact that she's thinking about herself as well, because if this stuff comes out about him and he's blacklisted, what the fuck do you think is gonna happen to me? I'm already barely on the list as it is.
But can I say something right quick? You said a very important word, value.
Mm.
Nev never, I want to say he valued her just a little for her voice, but he truly didn't value her as a woman, as a person, and as an artist.
Well, I think he valued her in the way that white people value expensive art. I want to own it, but that's it. It gives me status to have
Mm.
it.
And the proximity to greatness, right? Because he wasn't great on his own. He needed her to
Yeah,
be.
he wanted her greatness to be his. It's always like that with him.
Mm.
He wants to own the things, and it's obvious that he can see, what she has, and he just wants to take it. And I hate him because he is such a user. That's why when he got hooked on drugs, I was like, I mean, that makes fucking sense. You use everything else. Might as well use that too. I hate him.
Um, I think tensions were already high at the funeral too, because of the situation that took place and the fact that this interview that's currently in motion is bringing up old feelings.
Right.
And everybody, and of course, she's interviewing multiple people, and those people were present at the funeral. Tensions are high because now we're bringing up old shit. that we never healed from, by the way.
Correct. We just moved on from.
Right. We swept that shit under the rug. We put it in the back of our minds and we moved forward in time. We just kept going through time with this thing on our backs. You know what I mean? So it's just I felt like the tensions were already high when it came to Opal and Sunny. Well, with Sunny's presence, I think tensions were already high because she was a reminder of what they lost, like what was taken in such a violent way, and how so many people kind of felt responsible because what if I had done this? What if I had not done that? What if I, it's just like it's hurtful to think about. But the crazy part is it's kind of like it hurts you because you were there, yes, but it hurts her even more. That was her damn dad, and she never got the chance to even meet him.
Had to learn about him through records
Right, through the lens of other people. Oh
and
shit.
get a feel of him that way. I definitely
Yeah.
think you were right about the fact that it's not just about what they lost, but also about the fact that, like, what was my part in it? No one wants to think about the bad things that have happened in my life. Where were the parts where I was responsible for the hurt that not only like that I caused, but like the hurt that I experienced? The hurt that's so deep I can't recover from it. I can just learn to deal with it.
I think it's interesting that you bring that up because I actually have a note written about a couple of things at once, but we talked about the addiction and we talked about how he became addicted to it. But there's a moment when Opal talks about smoking weed and being, I guess, addicted to the weed. And she admitted that she was just young and dumb and she had this affair. I think that through telling her truth and being so honest about it, she was like honest and had been questioning. She did a lot of self introspection, about what was my part in these things, because it I think it comes across in the things that she reveals, the vulnerability that she offers. I don't think everybody had that, of course, but I do think that it was a direct parallel, right? A direct contradiction to Nev. Oh, I can't remember. I don't know. It's all so foggy, blah, blah, blah. And then her going, nah, I remember this, and maybe I shouldn't have done that. And maybe that was too much. And, like I think she took a little accountability. And so I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I think she took accountability for it. I think that she tried to atone for the death of Jimmy through multiple avenues, right? Sending money to the wife, but the wife didn't want no parts, and she was like, shit, I'm just gonna, but the wife wasn't stupid. She was like, shit, I'm gonna take these checks, I'm gonna put them to the side, and this is what we're gonna use for my daughter.
And then
So
I'm going to send you a bill, ho.
that part. And then I'm gonna send you these schools so you can pay for this here tuition. Because one thing, since you had the audacity, go on and pay. Go on and give me my reparations. Like,
Okay.
give my daughter the reparations or whatever. But I think that when it came down to her trying to atone in these different ways, one of the ways was not just her sending money and her confessing like maybe I did do X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. I still don't think that that was necessarily healing for her. I don't think we really saw her healed until the very end when she walked off that fucking stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
When she finally understood exactly what Nev was.
Yeah.
Yes,
That.
that right
Yeah,
there.
I agree. I don't think that she was healed, but I think that she was doing the work through the interview to kind of reconcile some of those feelings. And then, like you said, at the end, when she finally allows herself to see who he really was.
I will agree with you as far as like I think that out of everybody, she was the one who took the most accountability.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
She was the one who stood up in it and
Mm.
really, faced that shit head on. Whereas everybody else kind of like shriveled away or excused it away or just ignored it.
it
She
wasn't their
definitely
problem.
was, yeah, she stood in that shit firm and bold. And I do love her for that. And you have to respect her for it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She was a beast. And I love how the author, like I said, I read that passage at the beginning, and that was the description that we get of her. And throughout the text, we literally get to see so all the instances of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really like that the author, was able to do that. It felt really good. So they're at the funeral. She tells her this thing. Opal's like, what the fuck? No, don't tell me that bullshit. Don't tell me at the funeral. Nev's lawyer comes out because Nev is singing and trying to get Opal in there to sing with them, right? The lawyer basically calls security on her, on Sunny. And even though Sunny has done nothing, like she was actually invited to the service.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Invited, like literally invited to the service. They take her out, and now she's the pariah. She loses her job.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is the moment where I was so mad at Opal because I'm just like, bruh, you are the one who wanted her to write the story. Like you wanted her specifically. You wanted her to interrogate all of this. You wanted to get to the truth of certain things. And now that you're being faced with that, you're acting like this. And it's really pissing me off because she's just trying to talk to you about the thing that you hired her to do, basically. Like you wouldn't be so upset if you didn't have some doubt in your heart as well. Because that much is obvious. You don't want to believe it, but a small part of you does believe it. It was irritating. I was so mad at her, and I think that's just a sign of how well written it all was because I was so pissed off at her.
Yeah, because you feel like you get to know him. Her characterization was top tier. And like I said, even in just that one paragraph, we got so much from her. And we got a lot about the people around her in just that prologue. I mean, we
Yes.
learned everything, not everything we needed to know, but you get what I'm saying? Well, like we had just enough of a foundation of these characters to already have a bias toward them or biased against them, right? And so that goes back to the whole way that the story is told through these dialogues, through these interviews where they have to tell their truth, right? And she has to go into it with a unbiased manner. But could she ever really be unbiased about her fucking daddy?
I
After
think
the whole
Nev was really well written as well because I this time I had like the information, like I knew about him being a part of Jimmy's death. I just couldn't remember exactly what he did. I just remember he did something. So when I went into it this time, I already had that. But I also remember my first time reading it and how I never suspected that from him and how I did kind of think, oh, he's just like, this kind of happy-go-lucky, bumbling, just kind of incompetent character who kind of fucks up a lot but doesn't mean any harm. It was written so well that I also viewed him that way right up until I couldn't do it anymore. And I like that. I like that the book supports what you learn about him.
and the what the fuck moment was really like everybody was like, what the fuck? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. No, you're
Everybody
fine.
was. What the fuck?
But I will say, I was like Mika said, me reading it for the first time, getting into it once while he was in the hospital. I'm like, oh, why did he shift? Why did his attitude? I don't think he had anything possibly to do with it, but I kept on reading, and then the what the fuck moment happened. I was like, you little bastard, you little selfish bastard. Mm, yeah,
Tricked us all. Can we just take a second and talk about that conversation that she had with her mother? That was one of my favorite moments. I loved how vulnerable and honest they were with each other. And also the fact that she may not have been able to understand or like appreciate why her daughter was doing exactly what she was doing. And she had like all these complicated feelings. But she also took that moment to be a mom and is like, you
mhm,
fought me so hard to do this very thing, and then at the final hour when you're this close, you gonna give up, and you think I'm just gonna let you?
thank
You
you.
think I don't know you well enough to know that if this is what you really want to do, that this is what you should be doing?
That
That was
Yes,
a
powerful.
beautiful moment, y'all. I was in here just crying because I was like, oh, your mom loves you because she is willing to be a part of this thing that hurt her so badly, but she wants it even more for you because it matters to you. And it doesn't matter that it hurts her that much. Like, she's still going to support you in it. I loved it. It was great.
It also stamps the confirmation of why she was willing to accept this money from the mistress.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about me. It's not about my feelings. Yes, every time I see a check from this woman, it pisses me off, but I love my child enough to take this and make it a tool for her so that she can
Mm-hmm.
achieve the greatness that I know that she can. I want to set her up as best as I can so that she can reach heights that I never thought that I would ever reach. I'm
Nor
not
her
there.
father reached. Right,
Right.
yeah.
To
I
really give her that opportunity, like what most parents say they want for their kids. I want better for you than I ever had.
And I will swallow my pride to get there.
It was
Mm.
brilliant. It was such a great conversation. It felt cathartic even for me. And I'm like, I ain't even there.
no, it really was very well done. And I like when she said the whole, you fought me, but you gonna bow down to them. Like, who I raised you to be? Oh, I'm so lowly that you gonna tell me no. Oh yeah, but you gonna let them. Right. Like, it was another one of those empowering moments that are just
Mm-hmm.
sprinkled throughout the text of a woman holding another woman up by, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, you that girl since you were a little bitty thing, you know?
It was
Yeah.
I really
beautiful.
like that. And that okay, so then we go to this event, the revival, and she's in
Fochella.
Coachella, and she's at the front, and she's like, I want to say like not a mosh pit, but they're really close by the guard, or maybe by the rails, but they're close enough. And she sees these three black women. They are punk rock. They are like everything that Opal embodied, right? Just punk, having a good time. Of course, a Karen is there and she's tripping,
Aren't they
that,
always?
oh my God, like, oh, you stepped on my toe, and it's like, girl, everybody stepping on everybody's toe. Like, it wasn't malicious. We crowded, we
We're at a rock show.
Mm-hmm.
right.
You are so
Like,
lucky that you didn't get trampled on.
so she, cries wolf, calls security, they rocking out. Finally, Nev's up there, Opal comes out, and they are like amped looking for her, like, where is she? Come on, let's go. But they're on the fences and they like rocking out. I mean, it's a fucking rock show at fucking Coachella, bitch. Like, we chilling, right?
Yes.
And Opal comes out and she's doing her like punk rock stage magic kind of thing, and the girls are just losing their mind. And then all of a sudden, here comes Craig, the security guard, top flight security of the world. He's like, "You gotta come with me, man." And everybody's like, "What the fuck, bro? We are jamming." And Opal sees this shit
Yep.
from the stage. Hey, 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 whoa, whoa, what's going on here? We rocking out. We good, buddy. We good. And Craig takes it to the back. And Opal is steady trying to get Nev and the band to stop playing. And he just keeps playing. And you know,
Well, first they cut off her mic, so
Yes.
they can't. The security can't even
yes.
hear her protest. And then when she's like, "Oh, well, my mic isn't working," and she tries to get Nev, "Hey, let's stop this," because I'm thinking, well, I'm guessing she's thinking, this is my partner.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't do it, then he'll do it for me because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have each other's backs here. And of course, Nev gives a little subtle head nod, like, keep playing. And he just ignores the fact that she's trying to get his attention and that she's trying to help this young black woman in the crowd who has not done anything and is being unfairly accosted by the security because of the audacity of white women and the fact that they think they own every fucking thing.
That pissed me the hell off, boy. I said, now look at his sorry tail. Look at him. What you mean keep on?
That was the wake up call that
For
Opal
her.
needed
Mm-hmm.
because he got away with it years before at the first incident. And now she's able to see straight up the type of person that Nev is and how he really doesn't give a damn about anything or anybody but his performance.
Oneself.
Yep.
But with that happening, Opal basically becomes like creative
Mm-hmm.
in her ways of getting the attention of the crowd, because the crowd doesn't necessarily know what's going on, right? Like
Right.
this incident is taking place amongst the crowd, but the crowd is focused on the stage. They're not seeing what's happening and how shit's getting a little bit rowdy back there. So she becomes creative in her way of getting the attention of the crowd to kind of like shift the energy a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And then that's when she grabs Nev.
Baby, that's a performer. When you know how to change the atmosphere and grab your audience attention, the way she did that, that right there was a Tina Turner moment to me. I said, baby, she was working the stage. She said, I'm gonna show you before you try to show me again. I'm gonna show you. And
Hmm.
baby, did she do it? She did it.
I like that that was her way of saying goodbye to him and letting him know, like, this will never happen again. We'll never be what we were again, not even in a friendly way. Like, we'll
Mm.
never have it again. And you could just tell, like, the way that he knew it meant something. I don't know that he knew that it meant what it meant, but like, Ned been waiting on that kiss his whole life.
It
He been
was
waiting.
it was like the kiss of death.
There you
He
go.
thought that she was trying to bring some stuff back. Like he said, "Oh, finally, she wants me."
Yeah.
You idiot.
What do you think that the audience perception of the kiss was? Like, we know, we saw it and we like, oh, that's the biggest fuck you I ever did see. He's like, ooh, yeah. And what do you think the audience's perception was?
When she walked off the stage and never came back, I think the audience probably would say, like, what happened? I know this is not the show. Just 3 minutes, 4 minutes of Opal. This is what we paid for? No, I want my money. They got loud, they got pissed.
I think the people were probably confused because they didn't. They also didn't see what happened with like with the young lady, but also, of course, you have white audience goers who are just going to believe, well, I mean, yeah, this bad thing happened, but you have to put on the show. It's called professionalism. I wanted to throw my fucking phone. I wanted to throw my phone because what do you mean? What do you mean professionalism is more important than someone's potential like life being lost or being assaulted? Just like, what do you mean by that? Like, and if she had been white, would you feel the same way? And we all know the answer.
I
But hold
think
up. I think the audience did find out what happened because it was on, people were recording it and they were reading the chats. Because
No,
it was,
they found out what happened. It's just the reactions to it were different.
oh,
Some
sorry, my
people
bad.
some people thought, okay, this is like this is the time to stop the show. This is like, and of course they're not knowing the history and like
Mm-hmm.
what she just found out about Nev. So of course, but then of course there were those people who's like, okay, well, you stopped the show long enough to make sure that she's okay. But then you continue on and you continue to work with this man who might have played the largest part in the death of one of your friends, because they
Mm-hmm.
just don't care. Like, I paid my money and therefore you must dance monkey for me.
I think
And
initially with the crowd when the kiss took place, I think they got excited about it because of those rumors that took place back in the day. Like the
Mhm.
rumors that took place that Nev and Opal were in some type of romantic relationship, not realizing that that was the furthest thing from the truth because there was like a chemistry there with the music and whatnot. So I think when she kissed him, they thought that it was some type of confirmation of some sort, not realizing that that was basically her way of saying I'm getting the fuck on.
I
Yeah.
think I think it was excitement that turned into confusion because like you have this kiss which is so crazy, and then you have her leaving, and we definitely think she's coming back until we realize, oh, she's not coming back.
No, I agree with that. I do think that it was excitement that turned into confusion, but the initial reaction was excitement. And I think that it did play a part in possibly, like, the crowd took it as this is confirmation about this rumored relationship that took place back in the day. I think that's initially what the crowd was thinking. And then as of course the show continued on and they realized Opal wasn't coming back, then it kind of morphed into confusion. And then it morphed into anger because where the fuck is she? I want my money back.
I
Okay,
also
We
because this who I came for. And
we didn't want Nev.
I think that's the funniest part about all of it, right? Is that he's so happy to have this revival and thinking that people are going to always be screaming his name and not realizing that no, bitch, she has surpassed you. She is an icon and there are people who stand for her. And when he saw that fucking riot about to happen again because she wasn't on the stage, it was like, oh,
I think that comes from like the reclamation that has been happening, and like around the time that the book is set, because you kind of get that it's like around Trump's first presidency, so it's right around in that time. And there was already like a lot of reclamation happening, especially with social media, with people coming out and talking about the foundation of a lot of things, where a lot of the creative spaces and like all of these things that people that have been whitewashed, like country music and rock music especially, like those two genres seem so very white because of what has been done to them. But the more you look back and the further you go, you'll see how black those things started out and how they became what they are. Not that they've always been that way, because they haven't. And black people have always been in these spaces. We just weren't allowed to be the face of anything because they didn't want us to be the face of it. They wanted it to be marketable 100% to white people. So how do you do that? You take out the Negroes, you take out the Latinx people, you take out the indigenous people. They're allowed to be there, but they are not allowed to be the face. So I feel like the way people felt about seeing Opal directly comes from learning the history of things and then looking into the progenitors of those things. So you start learning about people like Big Mama Thornton, and you start listening to the original records, and songs like Hound Dog, and like people like Chuck Berry and Little Richard, and you start hearing that I hear these things in this music to this very day, and I did not know where it came from. And then you start looking at icons like Opal and wanting to see those living icons before they go, to actually be like, I finally got to see where the shit came from. I finally got to see one of the originals do it. Not these imitations, not the whitewashed version of it that stripped all of the soul out. I just thought that was a really cool moment for those people to have, and for her to get to see that it took so long, but you are finally seen as the original, as the innovator, which is exactly what you always were. You were always ahead of your time, but luckily you are still alive to see how much people appreciate you and the impact that you have had on so many little weird black girls who
eccentric.
did yeah, who didn't. I like weird because I am weird,
I know,
but
I was just using my vocabulary word for the week since you had used to.
did I?
You did.
um I just like that. I like that she's a living legend, in the book, that she is somebody who lived long enough to see a time where she wasn't appreciated, and to live long enough to see that her hard work and all the shit that she had to suffer through was actually appreciated and was finally being venerated in that way. I just thought it was super cool. It was one of my favorite moments in the book. Y'all know I love like books about music, and just showing appreciation where appreciation is due. I had a great time.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Can
please.
can I ask what do you guys think her taking off her head wrap and revealing her bald head, what do you think that represented in the moment?
Freedom.
Thank you.
Freedom. Freedom.
Yes.
Freedom. I can't lose. Yes.
Yes. I am now free from the foolery.
I think freedom played a big part in all of it when it came to Opal, and I believe that she had already found like some freedom in like wearing her bald head, wearing her wigs, wearing all of that, and then when she tames it down, like when they describe what she had on at the awards in the beginning, they say that she was more subdued, and they mention her head wrap. But like you said, when she's takes off that head wrap, she's finally in a place where she can be as free as she, wants to be.
Being free in all cases, from the hurt, pain, everything that she was holding on to. Some guilt. It wasn't my fault that Jimmy Curtis got killed, just like it's not my fault that these black girls got pulled out by the security guard. It's not me. It's them. It's him. It's him.
Mm. Okay, all right.
I definitely felt like it was just a moment of like her freedom, and also of a declaration of this is me. This is who I really am, you know? And I love those kinds of moments where you stand in your power exactly as who you are, and I love that for her.
Y'all got Mary J. Blige, Take Me As I Am.
My mind went to Fantasia with her This Is Me song.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a girl trying to make a way. Yes, it's hard, but I'll be okay. No matter what the people say, this is me. No, she said, don't really care what the
You
people say.
know
This
what
is
it
me.
reminds me of? I'm here from the Color Purple musical. Oh, yes, that is a moment for your ass. And it's from the book, and it's from the movie, and it is from the musical. I may be ugly, but I'm free. I'm here. And there's nothing that you can do to keep me from being exactly who I am out in the world anymore.
Mm,
Oh, I'm gonna have to go listen to the Color Purple soundtrack.
this was a good book.
Also,
Wait,
Fantasia was in that, and she played Celia. So.
another thing that I wanted to bring up before we kind of get off about the book is they go to the Waffle House. They escape and go to the Waffle House.
That was
And
funny.
they talk and they get on the record, and then that's when she's finally able to ask her, like, okay, like on the record, like, how do you feel now? What made you change your mind? How did y'all feel about that last and final interview? Did it feel cathartic? Did it feel forced? Did it feel like relieved? Like, how did it make you adjust and feel in that moment?
I think she felt relieved. It opened her eyes. Number one, I apologize for going off on you, but I saw what she was talking about. I see. Plain as day. I wasn't messed up. Nothing was going on. I saw it for myself.
Yeah, I definitely think that interaction at the Waffle House was her way of exhaling, which is also, of course, another form of saying that was a relief for her. And also her accepting the truth about who he was and all of that stuff. And having the real conversation, right? Like fuck all the bullshit. Yeah, I get it.
I think for me, that was another one of my favorite moments, just because they're finally on the same or similar of a playing field as they will ever be. Because after she gets off the stage, Opal is looking for Sunny to get back on this book thing and to get back on like telling the truth and being authentic and honest and open and vulnerable about all of these things. And she wants to do it for her specifically because she wants to empower her and she wants to give her those connections. And it's also not just about the fact that you are the one who has worked hard, enough to tell the story. You have the credentials, but also because you are as much a part of the story as anybody else. And if I'm going to tell all of this truth and all the ugliness of it, then I want to tell it to you. I just loved I loved how stripped down and vulnerable it was, and the fact that there was nowhere else to hide because you've seen what I've seen, you know what I know, and I know what you did, and I'm still here. I'm still willing to talk to you. I may not be your biggest fan anymore, but that's great because I'm finally seeing you as a person and not as like this symbol of so many things for me. And it's a beautiful moment when you can have that with somebody. It's bittersweet because I still admire you, but I also understand that I got to take you off that pedestal because nobody's supposed to be there. And I lost sight of that for a second. It was great. It was a wonderful moment.
That's funny that you said that. I didn't look at it at that point. I guess I was looking at the freedom for Opal. But when I go back into reading it again, I am going to check that out. I like that.
Yay.
I wonder if I would have received more from that moment, more than what I did. But by the time the book ended, I was burned out. This shit was long.
I enjoyed every bit of it.
You was finally like, girl, get over it. We done with that now.
Girl,
Shit.
I was like, when is this book going to end? Oh my God.
That is funny. I definitely enjoyed it, and I saw the importance of it at the end, and I was kind of putting myself on like a little time limit, see what I could do. As far as reading it, so, but I could see definitely how you could be like, okay, enough of that already. Enough with the mushies. I mean, it was a roller coaster. It was heavy, and if you didn't, if you weren't prepared for that amount of heaviness, which, um, sometimes you're not, and it's been a wild ride. It can get heavy toward the end, like, hurry up. So I didn't ask at the beginning, but if you rate books, what did you give it before and after, or did it stay the same? Did the conversation sway your judgment toward the characters? Blah 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 blah.
I started out at a 5 because of the last time that I read it. And I feel like it's still a 5 now just because of what Opal means to me. She just she means pretty much to me what she like meant to Sunny, but to a lesser extent. Just the fact that there are so many weird black women in the world that give the rest of us the courage to be exactly who we are, even when we're in these spaces that have been whitewashed to hell. And people want to tell you that because you're doing this, you're acting white, or you want to be white, or you don't belong in black spaces because of this, or you're too black to belong in these white spaces. And I don't know, I think every weird black woman is superwoman to some weird black girl. And I love that. I love Opal so much. So I keep it at 5 stars.
I rated the book 5 stars. It never, my 5 stars never changed within the book. What grabbed me to my heart was when the book was describing Opal's hair loss, and I said alopecia, because my daughter suffered from that in her early years. But it just grabbed me in more, and then how Opal was that strong black woman in all the trials and tribulations she went through, she still prevailed. So I appreciate her. I appreciate her, and I love me some Virgil. Virgil, that was my boo. That was my boo.
Yeah, Virgil was dope. I like him.
I did not rate this book yet. I have been sitting on my rating because I had different feelings about this story. Uh at first I was extremely invested in it. And then as the book went on and on and on, it just really lost me. And to a certain extent, I stopped caring about the story and what was happening and about the characters and the interviews and all that stuff until I perked up again with the whole revelation of who Nev was, Sonny getting that tidbit of information from old boy. That's when I finally kind of popped back in and my interest peaked. But then again, once it went on and on and on, I lost care. So I didn't really know what to rate this book. And that's not to shit on the writer or the writing of this book, because the writing was very well done. This was a very well written book. However, I think that this was a right book, wrong time situation for me. I wasn't invested. I didn't care. I was tired. I was ready for it to be over. After this discussion, I think I'll go ahead and I'll give it a 4. Because like I said, the writing was very well done and the story wasn't terrible. But again, I can't give it anything higher than a 4 because it did not hold me like I wanted it to. It did not keep me engaged like I wanted it to. So yeah, I'm gonna settle on a 4. And yes, Virgil was also my favorite character because his baby, when he said when one is not rich, one must get creative, he ate with that shit. So yeah.
What about you, Erica?
I thought it was really good. I stopped rating books this year. I would definitely give the writing a 5. The characterization was a 5. I was intrigued. I did kind of not lose interest, but I think I had just come out of another musical book. And so I was like, okay, a lot of musical language, like, you can get overworked with it, but I would definitely give it a 5. I love what it could do. So I won't say definitely a 5. I'll say like 4.5, between 4.5 and 5. So let's say 4.75. It was really, really good. I like to read it with my eyeballs just because I digest differently, but the audiobook was so much fun. But now that I have the audiobook in my brain, I can have the audiobook when I read out loud now. And so I'm really interested to see, because when I started to read it with my eyes, I noticed the language that was used to describe different people and how that paints a picture that we all, don't know that we're subconsciously doing. But anyway, it was a 4.75 and it was really good. I'm really glad that it was brought to us. The Dark Side is a book club. We are on Instagram. Look us up at the Dark Side Book Club. You can find Danny at her.disorganized plans. You can find Ghosty as she doesn't want to be known. You can find Candace at Read, I think is it Read with CCK? CCK Reads.
Candace with a Z. Loves for books.
Okay. Candy's love for books, with the Z. We read a little bit of everything. We come for this discussion once a month. For June, we are reading The Celebrants and Siren Queen. So if you'd like to learn more, drop a comment and somebody will get back with you. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. Keep it messy, not malicious. Bye.
Bye.
Toodaloo, motherfucker. Okay.
Sorry, it's such a habit to say that at the end.